to Living a Legacy on the Neil Haley Network, and I'm excited to welcome to the program Eric Couch, the host. Eric, I am excited to chat with you today.
I know. This is a great one. We're going to have fun.
Awesome. I know that you're such a huge fan of his. And he's been in so many different shows and different things, but you are a fan of one show. What's that show, Eric?
Alias.
Yeah.
Alias. So today we're talking to actor Kevin Weissman, which in my world means Marshall Flinkman from Alias. And Kevin, man, I'm a huge fanboy, and welcome to the show. We're super excited to have you join us.
Thanks, buddy. It's funny. I can always tell by the age of the, and don't take this the wrong way, the age of the fan, which show and or film that person will reference. I had a feeling it was going to be Alias for you, or maybe Clerks too. You seem like a Kevin Smith fan.
I could be, yeah.
And I mean that as a compliment.
No,
I'm a Clerks fan too, for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's just interesting. Someone who will approach me, I generally can kind of suss out the what they'll reference. It's just a little game I play with myself. But I love meeting people, and I love what I do. So I feel very, very fortunate.
Well, and you've made such, you bring characters to life, right? And you have a lot of fun with it. It's wildly obvious that you love what you're doing. And I'll tell you, literally the very first show I ever Netflix binged. And in fact, this may have been pre-Netflix. It may have been like recorded off something, but
sure.
My wife and I were married. It was probably 2002 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched the entire season, I think, in a night. My college roommates like, Eric, you got to watch this show. We had headed over to Steve's house, and he had the entire first season of Alias. And
that was pre-Netflix. You were going DVD, my friend.
It had to have been.
It must have been. Yeah, there was no Netflix.
So Steve's got the whole season, and he's like, "We've got to watch this." So, and I don't think we started until like 10 o'clock at night, and it was 4 or 5 in the morning before we finished watching. And we were like, "Play the next one. Play the next one. Play the next one. This is great."
Can we bring Steve out? Is Steve here? Where's Steve?
Oh, he's gonna be ticked. I told him I was interviewing you, and he was like, "Oh, seriously, come on, bro, bring me on."
It's funny you say that because I've got Steve here. Steve, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He seems to know everybody. But yeah, there's so many. Like you were all the way through the series, right? You were SD6 all the way to CIA to, the whole thing from beginning to end.
APO. That was the third. Yeah. SD6, CIA, and then APO, authorized personnel only. That was the last season and a half. When they brought in some new characters, Balthazar Getty and Rachel Nichols. Yes, I was one of the fortunate ones. I was able to make it all the way through. I like to say I lasted longer than Bradley Cooper. He's doing okay right now, but
he's doing all right.
I think he's fine. But he's a great guy, and it wasn't any slight to his performance. It was just that storyline with Bradley and Marin Dungy, the first 2 seasons, where Sydney was, living a double life. A double agent for the CIA, and then also, or what she thought was the CIA, but also her personal life, which included Bradley Cooper's character, Marin Dungy's character, Will and Francie. I can't believe I remember all this. Will and Francie, and so that whole kind of personal life story came to an end. But since I worked for what I also thought was the CIA,
right,
which was actually a branch of this. What I thought was a branch of the CIA, but was SD6, this kind of, underground black ops organization. I made it all the way through. I was brought to the CIA, then I was brought to APO. So I was one of the few characters. It was Jennifer Garner, Victor Garber, Ron Rifkin, Carl Lumley, and myself. We were the only ones who were in the entire series. So I was one of the five, the fabulous five.
But if you're looking at most quotable lines, I'm not going to lie. Look, we all started it to see Jennifer Garner, right?
As well, you should have.
As well, we should have.
If you tuned in for me, I would be concerned.
Yeah.
But I snuck up on you. That was
you did. You did
the side hatch. Yes.
I'm dying. I mean, there's still like lines that I didn't have to look up that I still remembered that we played for years after Alias.
Oh, man.
The whole what was it? Something about karate. It's martial art. Martial art. Get it?
I don't even remember that one, man. Yeah. I mean, I remember I don't even remember when I said that, but I remember Super Swank and my mind. You hear that sound? It's the sound of my mind blowing. And no, it's crazy, man. I was I don't want to say I was kind of the original. I mean, maybe Q in the James Bond series was kind of the original gadget guy, but I think I definitely created something for television that was often duplicated but maybe never replicated. So I do take pride in that I was able to kind of create something.
Kevin, when I was thinking about specifically a successful show like that where Eric talks about it all the time, when you auditioned, did you think it was going to be that good? Especially
I had met J.J. Abrams on Felicity. I did a few episodes of Felicity, and which was another one of his shows. Yeah,
right.
And with Carrie Russell, and I did 3 or 4 episodes where I played Amanda Foreman's boyfriend. Amanda was Carrie's character's Felicity's friend, and I remember I went in to meet with him on this, and I read the script, and I thought it was incredible, of course, but I've read a lot of great scripts where they don't quite, come to fruition, but I knew that JJ was unbelievably talented and, would hire a great group of people. And then once I met Jennifer and I heard Victor Garber was doing it, I was a big fan of his in the theater. I was I'm from the theater and I studied theater in New York, and I was studying at a place called Circle in the Square and couldn't afford even to go to the theater. And I saw Ron Rifkin and Victor in a play by ushering in the theater. That was back then how you could see theater for free. You could usher, pass out programs, and then they'd let you stand in the back and watch the show. I don't think they let you do it anymore, but that was the way that young actors got to see theater. And I got to see Ron Rifkin, who played Sloane, and Victor Garber, who played, Jack Briscoe.
Right.
I told them, I was like, I saw you guys in the theater, and I'm so excited to work with you. And so I knew that the cast was stellar. But then I remember, to answer your question, Neil, once my agent and I went and saw the pilot, there was a party where they had the screening where they showed the pilot, and he turned to me afterwards. He's like, that was really good. This is going to be huge. I was like, really? You think so? I mean, it was good, right? It was good. I just couldn't believe how good it was.
Yeah.
JJ shot like a movie, and if you go back and watch the series, it was shot on 35 millimeter, so it's got a cinematic scope to it, which not to knock HD, they've really figured that out now with great lighting cinematographers and lighting technicians, but it really has a cinematic feel to it, in my opinion. And I think that helped. And then obviously Jennifer's performance. Jennifer was unbelievable. I mean, it's really the whole show, hinges on her. I mean, I thank you for all the the kind words, but it really was about her incredible work and her dedication. And she was I've never seen it in all my years, 25 years now. I've never seen someone that was so dedicated to her performance. I mean, she would get up at 4 a.m, work out, then get to work, then put in these insane 16-hour days, then go home and do it all over again. It was awe-inspiring. I mean, the woman is unbelievable. So I tip my hat to her, really.
Well, and when I agree completely on, that the show came off way different than most shows that you watched, right? Because of using a 35 millimeter, because of it having that feeling like a movie when you're watching it. But then you know, the way that JJ brought in the sets and all the, you know, the way that it was all put together, right? It felt more like watching a movie each week than it did watching a TV show. And it kind of took,
I agree.
It kind of took TV to another level.
It was also the beginning, you know, based on what you said of this kind of idea of a continual narrative, you know, continuation narrative. Prior to that, we had great shows like NYPD Blue or Law and Order, but they were all kind of cases of the week with some overall arc. But this show, like, you had to see the previous episode, and the networks were worried about that. Like, well, how is someone just going to pop in and, you know, watch our advertisements? How do we make money? How do people see it? And the show was never like a ratings bonanza. We did fine, but I think we had enough great fans like yourself that saw the show to keep it on the air for 5 years. But I think it was a challenge for the network to figure out, hey, how do we market something that you can't just, I mean, you could, but you're going to be confused if you just pop in, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you know that J.J. Abrams, even before we worked with him, his greatness and how he continues as working with J.J.? What would you say, and definitely in that evolution process with him is?
I mean, he was always just really cared about story, and I know I'm still friendly with him. You know, I mean, he's very busy, obviously.
Yeah.
We all are, but and right now, you know, no one's seeing anybody, but you know, due to the pandemic. But the writers that he hired, I've worked with many of them throughout the years after Alias, and they all told me that his writers' room was, you know, he cracked the whip in a very, you know, supportive, friendly, kind JJ way, but like he really wanted those stories to be incredible, and it all starts with the writing.
Right.
You know, I mean, the actors are great, you know, on the show, but like if you don't have good writing, then it doesn't matter how good the actors are. And it was incredible storytelling. It's not easy to write. You know, nowadays when you watch a show, like I was just watching Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Yeah.
Great show, but it's like 7 episodes. So it's like, you know, 7 1-hour stories. Those guys had to write, and it's incredible. I recommend it, but those guys had to write 22 42-minute episodes. It's hard, you know. And JJ really ran that room, you know, so incredibly proficient and intelligently, that the writer's room, that is, that I'm not surprised that he's gone on to do so incredibly well, you know, in his career. And it's incredible.
So I want to talk about some of the other shows you've been in, but before we do that, I want to talk about some favorite scenes. But like, you were in, you know, of course, Alias, which we're talking about now, Scorpion, Blacklist, all kinds of shows. But before we get into some of those, what were some of your kind of favorite moments or favorite actors to work with over the years?
Show or in general?
Well, let's start with the show, and then we can go
on Alias.
Yeah, let's start with Alias, and then we can branch out. Sorry.
I would say, you know, working with Victor Garber was a real thrill for me. He is an incredible actor, kind man. And I learned a lot on that show, just about how, you know, showing up, being prepared. And you can tell it's usually the people that come from the theater that really are ready to go, you know, when the director says action. People like Ron Rifkin and played Sloan and Victor. But we had incredible guest stars. Quentin Tarantino.
Oh yeah.
He was awesome. I even pitched him like an idea for a film. He didn't seem that excited, but you know, like I cornered him. I was like, all right, I got a great idea. And he was like, yeah, man, yeah. But he was cool. And we had like Faye Dunaway, you know, legendary Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, she came on. Ethan Hawke.
She was like the boss, right?
Yeah, she came in during the SD6 season 2. She was the boss. And Ethan Hawke and
Mhm.
Roger Moore, James Bond was on the show. Like, we had incredible guest stars. Lena Olin, who played her mom, she was incredible.
Yeah.
More recently, just to branch out, I got to work with Billy Bob Thornton on Goliath, the first season of Goliath. And dude, that guy, I mean, what a pro, the most relaxed actor. And he's right there with you, as it happens when you're filming, you have your coverage where the camera's on you, and then sometimes it's like a 2-shot where you're both in this shot, and then a lot of times, and then they would turn it around on the other actor. And he was so present during the other actor's coverage, like my coverage. I mean, such a professional, that guy. I learned a lot, and so relaxed and cool. And I had a great time. And it was a very intense character that I was playing, this agoraphobic whistleblower, afraid for his life. So it was high stakes. It was intense, but he was so supportive and right there for me. And I loved working with him. Yeah. And Elias Gabel on Scorpion, who's the lead on Scorpion, became a great friend of mine, great actor. Loved working with him. Stephen Merchant on Hello Ladies, the great Stephen Merchant, comic genius. Ricky Gervais came in on Alias, comic genius. Just guys who I admire, and you just psych that you're, God, I can't believe I'm working with these great guys, and you just you bring your A game, they got their A game, everyone's bringing their A game. It's fun, man. I'm sure you remember Neil in the wrestling days.
Oh, see, I knew you'd bring that up again, Kevin. Different people. The Rock wore my knee pads when he forgot them in Memphis when he was still just Rocky Maivia working at USWA, and I was doing TV. Came up to me, just working with just the greats in the 80s of wrestling, King Kong Bundy, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, all that's my era.
The Bushwhackers.
I'm sure I watched. What was your character name?
Oh, different names. Big Neil, the Real Deal, Giant Warrior, Leviathan, into Big Butch Bronson. It just depended where in what town or what area. I'm a legitimate 6'10", so I was playing a 7-footer that had a little more weight on me than now. Maybe not. Maybe the pandemic's put back the weight that I had in wrestling.
The pandemic 15.
The pandemic 25, I think. But
you're 6'10". You're allowed.
I'm okay. But no, I agree, and I think that you talk about that. I think what has made you a successful actor is you talked about those greats that you worked with side by side. You have a respect factor for them that's important as an actor, right? But not an awe factor. A more of I am a colleague, but I respect you, but I'm going to really learn from you. And I'm sure directors and producers love that about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have to, I know that wrestling is partially scripted, but you got to do it. It's not like you still have to show up and do it. And you have to improvise, and you have to, things go left or right, and you have to kind of roll with it. And, I don't have any real fear about that. I'm just like, hey, at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're just telling stories. We're just trying to entertain. So I don't lead at all with fear, I'm not afraid to make a mistake. There's no mistake as you just commit to it. You know what I mean? I tell young actors that all the time, make a choice and just go for it. It may not be the right choice. It may not work, but who cares? You're committing to something, and you can do another. The director will say, that was great choice. I just don't think he's as angry here, because I always say, I have the tools, and I know you do too, Neil, to execute. Oh, you want angry here? I'm going to execute. Here we go. Might not be the right choice there. The character in the scope of the story may not be as angry as I thought he was. So I don't have an ego if the director says, oh, hey, I don't think he's that angry. Oh, you're right. Let me look at the story here. Why would he's not so angry. Maybe he's just, slightly perturbed. Let's dial it down. Let's do another one, but let's commit to slightly perturbed.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's erasing the idea of, oh, am I doing this wrong? There's no wrong if you're just like, if you're honest. I mean, Laurence Olivier, I just read his book, and he's like, look, you can never be too big, right? If you're grounded, if you're honest about it, you know. And it's the same thing when I watch wrestling. I'm like, I know it's a show, but like, you know, this guy seems committed to what he's doing. And I think that's why we like The Rock. You know, it's like, he seems genuine, you know, like as an actor. It's like, I believe what you're doing. I believe it. So, you know, I'll give you my $15 and see your movie. You know what I mean? Or right now I'll stream it for $6, but you know, in these days, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just about committing and not being afraid. So when you say, working with these great people, you can't be afraid just because they've had a great career. You have to go lead with it. Like, well, hey, I deserve to be here. So, right. I mean, there's obviously some insecurity. We all have it, but like, you have to just put that aside and just go for it.
Great point.
Well,
because what's going to happen? You already got the job, and what, are they going to fire you? That's how they fire you. You know what I mean? As long as they don't fire me for like being a jerk or like showing up late. If you're firing me because you didn't like what I did, then hey, well, whatever. What am I going to do? Maybe in wrestling you can kind of be a jerk and get away with it. I don't know.
I think it's about the same thing. It depends if you're in the office. So the days of wrestling in the old time was you were friends with the booker. You were friends with the promoter. You can get away with a lot more than if you were coming into that area to work a program with somebody, then you'd leave. The way the territories worked in pro wrestling before I was part of it, meaning before Vince really just took over everything, you go from Memphis for a little run, then you go down to Texas, then you go from Texas to California, and then you go to the East, and you would never be in the same place for a long time unless you were the family, and then that was your mainstay, that area. So wrestling today, if you're friends with Triple H, but that's the same thing in acting. There's no differences in that way. It's who you know, and if you have the connections and you're talented enough, you're going to end up going anywhere you want.
And also, there are a lot of talented people. I mean, you know, in wrestling as well. Like, but you know, someone's going to look at two actors and say, "Oh, I've worked with this guy. He's great, but he's kind of a jerk. But I've worked with this guy. He's great, and he's pretty cool." Like, you don't have to be best friends with everyone. Just like be cool. Right. You know, like respect the situation. Like, it's very costly to make television films, put on a show. I hear this about comedians too. Like, you know, bookers don't want to hire guys who are going to just turn stuff upside down for no reason. Right. I mean, it's common sense, but some people don't get it, you know, and sometimes they slip through the cracks, but for the most part, those people kind of drift away because at the end of the day, it's business, you know, and if you're going to be that difficult to work with, it's going to be challenging for you to continue to work, I think. Again, like, you don't have to be you don't have to fake it and be like, hey, you know, we're best friends. Just like respect everybody's job.
Exactly.
So talking about craziness and stuff now, one of the things that I've heard about is, you know, actors in their contracts sometimes will have, you know, I've got to have the room's got to be this degree and this. So, you know, talking about, you know, I've got to have a white lion sitting outside of my wardrobe. And, you know, does that still exist? And have you seen some wild requests?
I don't know. I think those days are over, man. Not really. I mean, yes, on a certain level that I don't really kind of see that often, maybe, you know, but the kind of days of that, like, behavior, I think has subsided a bit. You know, I think what I see more is just when you have like a celebrity doing television, they're more maybe concerned about the script, and maybe they don't want to move forward if the writing isn't good, and they'll throw a bit of a tantrum about that. I haven't seen too much about, you know, why are there brown M&Ms in my bowl? You know, I mean, it happens, I'm sure, behind the scenes, but you know, television, which I've done a lot of, moves pretty fast, and you got to be ready to go. You know, you're shooting 8 pages a day, and you have to kind of understand contextually what it is. And I've seen some movie people, I'm not going to name any names, but like show up and they're just not ready for it. You know, they're not coming out of their trailer, or yes, they want some special provisions or whatever it is. And it's kind of like, hey, you know, they'll back up the Brinks truck for actors to work on stuff. But once you show up, you got to do it. Like we can't wait 3 hours for an actor.
Exactly.
Right.
On a TV show. It's just not feasible. You know, it's millions of dollars. And maybe like old school movies or like movie stars, which I'm not, you know, so it's like, you know, maybe, but if I'm like, I'm just going to kick it for 3 hours, they're like, really? Then I'm going to get a call from my agent. Like, dude,
get to work.
Yeah, come on, bro. You're going to lose the job. They're going to fire you. So it's like, you know, I don't have that luxury. Maybe some people do. It's just, I'm not in that camp.
Well, but again, TV is more of a fast pace, like you're saying, 8 pages a day. You know,
maybe not always that much when you have stunts and stuff like that. Maybe it's 4 pages, but like if it's just dialogue, you're to shoot an hour show. You know, it's like 8 or 9 days. So it's like you're almost like you're shooting like a little movie. You know, you're just like, come on, we got to go. And you know, I mean, you take time shooting this stuff, but you got to be ready to go. You know, you got to learn your lines at home, show up, know your stuff, and be ready to rock. You know.
Yeah. So I loved your comment about just committing, right? Because that impacts anything that you're doing. The difference between someone who's going to get the job and the person who isn't is just committing to it. We were so a little bit of my background is I'm a professionally trained singer, and unfortunately they made me sing like opera in college because that's all they teach, right? So I was with a group of CEOs, and we were working on writing a book and stuff about a month ago in Acapulco. And we walk into this beautiful church, and they're like, Eric, sing. So I start singing Nessun Dorma, right? Pavarotti. But they said, okay, I want you to do something different. I want you to make up every single word. You know, it's going to be in Italian, but make up every word. And I was like, okay. And the whole point was being, dude, nobody knows if you mess up unless you tell them. Like, they don't know. And if there's somebody in the room that does know, a lot of the time they're like, holy shit, dude, that was awesome. Like, you completely flubbed the whole thing. And nobody knew except me, because I know what the words were supposed to be. But everybody else, like, you presented it. And that's what you've got to do regardless. You know, the sign of a professional, exactly what you said. Commit.
Yes, I think that, you know, like I'm kind of, I don't know if I would say known for, but one of my strengths, why do I not have an outlet over here? One of my strengths is being able to improvise within scripted dialogue. I have made a career out of, you know, improvising, but it's not about just kind of saying whatever. It's improvising within the context of the scene. So I've never had anyone tell me, stop doing that, you know, in terms of director, like you were saying about singing. No one's following along at home and reading the original text. Now, will the writers sometimes bristle? Yes, but only if you're trying to kind of rewrite narrative. If I'm just kind of making it sound, I'm just opening it up a little within the context of my character. Like with Marshall on Alias, I added a bunch of stuff. And JJ kind of said to me, look, I'm going to let you improvise because the character's a little bit underwritten. It's really just kind of tech based at first.
Right.
So do your thing, because you're a funny guy and you're obviously spending a lot of time on it. And you know, we can always cut around it. And a lot of stuff I didn't make it into the final, you know, shows. but he was like, just don't tell the other actors, because their stuff wasn't really kind of built for that sort of improvisation.
Right.
And, you know, it always just, then once the great writers that worked on that show, Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi, went on to create a million shows, and Drew Goddard, and just incredible people. They kind of saw what I was doing, and then they wrote to what I was doing. So they started kind of writing improvisations that I was doing. Do you know what I mean? So I had to kind of do less improv, because I kind of figured it was kind of a meeting between writers and actor. You know, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking for this guy. That's great. We're going to take it and run with it because we're professional writers. Right. You know what I mean? So I respected them. They respected me. It was like, it's a collaboration.
Exactly.
It's a collaboration. So I was working on the show with Jason, and I was playing this cop, and I was pointing the gun at Jason's character, and he tells me something. He knows my password for something. I'm like, no, you're lying. And then I kind of jumbled the line, "You're lying," and then I just said it again in frustration. You know, I didn't stop. I just was like, "You're lying," and thinking like, they're never going to use that. I screwed that up.
Right.
That was the take they used, and it seemed, and I at the time I ended up putting it on my reel. You know, the agent's like, hey, we kind of put together a little, you know, little reel, sample thing.
Yeah.
It was years ago, and he's like, hey, I love that moment. And my agent's like, I love that moment with Jason where you're like, you're lying. I'm like, yeah, that was kind of a mistake. You know what I mean? But I didn't stop. I just kind of just plow forward, because a lot of times in the mistakes are the great moments.
Exactly.
Right.
In wrestling, we had to do that all the time, where if we screwed up a spot or did certain things or just messed it up, we were able to cover it up. But also, I remember an interview.
Because you can't stop. You can't tell the audience, Neil, like, oh, we're going to do that again.
Yeah. Can we start over?
and then
it's live.
Situation where you mess up something in an interview, and you're just like, okay, well, I'll just go with the flow. They didn't know what I just did, or I just said this and I was not a plan, or I didn't expect that guest to say what they said. Okay, let's keep going with the flow. And that's the part of it, monitoring and adjusting and then performing, because people aren't going to know those mistakes, or, oh my gosh, I just said about 5 ooms and ahs. Oh, guess what? Everyone does that. I can't believe people that go edit every and ah. That's podcasting versus radio. Radio is just raw. Podcasting has to be perfect at times, which I don't agree with. I believe
on most podcasts, they go back through and chip chop.
Yeah.
You think is what you're saying?
Well, yeah.
Some do. I mean, seriously. Like ones, especially that are green in this business, they'll go pay somebody to do like 7 hours of editing for one show. Seriously.
Wow. But I feel like the ones that I listen to, like Mark Maron, WTF, stuff like that, I don't know how much, he probably doesn't do that much editing. Maybe a little.
But they've also done it for so long that they don't make some of the rookie mistakes because they've done it for a while, right? It's like we've done 1,000 episodes. Okay, well, pretty much whatever I say is going to stick because you've said it so many times. You've been in so many episodes. You know how to commit, and you're like, I'm in. Like, wherever we go is where we go. It's going to be fun, and it's fine.
Yeah, and I don't like to do things the same way twice. I kind of take the concept of like great musicians, jazz musicians, or like, you know, even someone like Jerry Garcia, Grateful Dead. Like, you listen to that stuff, and like Jerry never played the same song the same way twice. And sometimes it was okay, and then other times it's like blows your mind. But you're never going to get to the mind blowing until you just go for it and try stuff. And they only need one. So then they're just going to choose the best one that works the best. So why not? Don't lock it in, you know, just figure out what's happening in the scene and then just kind of go for it. You know, and a lot of times the other actors rise to the occasion. And that was something about Billy Bob also. He was the same way. Like, he's just like, hey man, whatever we're doing. Don't worry about it. Say whatever you want, you know. And I'm like, okay. And he's one of the producers on the show. I was like, great, that's pretty much what I do anyway. So okay, here you go. But he was kind of giving me the go ahead. He was like, that's how I like to work anyway. Let's go. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, just feel it. So other than Billy Bob, who are, you've mentioned Victor, who are some other folks that you've really enjoyed being with in any show, but also maybe who's someone that you would love to act with, or that you've always taken inspiration from?
Yeah. I mean, listen, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman was somebody that I really admired. And it's unfortunate he's not around, but that was another guy that really committed, but was also super vulnerable and was able to kind of run the gamut of emotions, and it all seemed super honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was funny.
100%.
Yeah. He's one that I think, I have a acquaintance, John C. Reilly, who I also feel the same way about.
Oh, one of my all-time favorites.
The best. Yeah. He's really good, man. And I've never worked with him, but we've done a reading together, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and I love his work. You know, in that same group, Jack Black and I went to UCLA together, and I love Jack's work, just in terms of contemporaries.
So y'all went to UCLA together, so y'all knew each other and everything?
Yeah, theater school. Yeah.
Awesome.
He's a year older than me, but yeah, we've known each other from the very beginning. Yeah. Great guy. And I'm very good friends with his music partner, Kyle Gass and Tenacious D.
Yeah.
We played in a band together called Trainwreck, and he's a great dude. Yeah.
I got to spend a whole night with Jack, and hanging out, and then they put on a concert for us and all that. So it was
what was the occasion?
When he was in the movie Bernie.
Yeah. Great movie.
Back in 2012 about Bernie Tita.
I saw it. Yeah, it was amazing.
So the day Bernie was arrested, he was my benefactor. So in the movie, when they talk about giving cars to people, I was one of them, and he was going to pay for me to go to college. But the reality is, he lived in this tiny 2-bedroom home, and I lived in the other bedroom because
you lived in the other bedroom of Bernie.
Yeah, and like a 1,200 square foot home.
Oh my God!
I didn't know this story. What's that?
So Bernie was like a dad.
Wow, you do have a bit of a Southern Bernie accent.
Yeah, and we both sing and all that. So
yeah, well, that was why Jack was so great for that part, because Jack's a great singer, and I know Bernie sang or sings. Yeah. Is he still in jail?
He's still in jail. He got life again. I was a character witness in both trials, and
where is the story, Eric? Where the heck is this story? I didn't hear the story, and I've been for a year.
I'm glad I brought up Jack Black. We got the breaking story, Neil.
Exactly, Eric. Why?
Well, Neil, that's why. Yeah, I referenced it when I said we got to get Matthew McConaughey with his new book because of my connection with Bernie. But yeah, Bernie had asked if he could adopt me. So that night that we had the big fundraiser, we were my wife and I were the only two people in the room that knew Bernie. So Bernie's like, at my hip all night. And then Jack comes and we start talking. So there's few hundred people in the room. Of course, Rick Linkletter put it on. And for a solid 10, 15 minutes, it's just Jack and my wife, Catherine, and I, and we're just talking. And I mean, we had a great time. But
wow. Yeah. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Really
sweet guy.
And he's was great in the movie. All over,
Yeah. What do you mean? Like his personality? Yeah. I mean, he's not like totally like that, in the day to day, but I think, it was a fundraiser, and, people were paying wasn't it a fundraiser for Bernie or it was just
it was like $1,000 a plate dinner type
Yes.
deal.
I remember this. I remember him talking about it. Well, it was a great movie, and look at that, Neil, breaking story.
Breaking Story is my co-host, and I work with him for so long. He doesn't tell that story. I can't find it somewhere. That's an interview.
I was able to mine for gold, Neil.
Exactly. Well, you got the podcasting mic. So, do you have a podcast? Do you?
No, but I do a lot of voiceover work and interviews. I was actually gifted this microphone by Blue. The Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
The folks that sent me this, so a little love to them. Thank you. Beautiful mic. As
It
you can
is
see,
great
and
mic.
I sound. How do I sound? Can you show?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I use it all the time. I use it even for like parent-teacher conferences, for my kids, and the teachers are like, "Oh, nice microphone." Yeah, probably a little excessive, but a little overkill for a parent-teacher conference. But
Yeah,
what are you
it's
gonna do?
improved. The Yeti has improved from the days
It
10
has.
years ago. And I
The
think
snowball.
when I'm going to
Yeah,
start to jump on when I'm going to do Zooms, because I have 2 studios now, one at my mom's because of the pandemic, and then my house. I'm going to start doing night shows again with another podcaster that wanted to collaborate with me, but we're going to be doing 11 o'clock at night. And I said, no. If we're going to go this route and we're going to do this, I'm going to do this right and increase it even more. Like I got on my comfort zone, decide to put myself on camera. Eric remembers we met me. I never want to put myself on camera ever. And
you
I've
look good. You got that nice jacket on. Look at you.
leaps and
Very,
bounds. Well,
Yeah.
one of my other people, so I'm getting used to it now. But you gotta love the fake green screen and all that. So
Yeah,
no,
what
You
is
know,
that's
but
a
Neil,
that's
for a
a that's
while,
a
you had
Zoom
that-
screen, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
That's not your background.
no. Zoom.
Yeah, well, this is also fake. This is not real. This is California.
The sound.
I just
everything.
clicked on California. Yeah, I'm in my mom's basement. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle and I may do a podcast. We've been kind of throwing that around, but I do a lot of them, and it's just not. On my Instagram, we've done some fun, like during the pandemic, Kyle Gass and I have done some really fun little kind of short films that we really enjoy via kind of we're both in the pandemic, so we kind of are both in our own separate places. So people could check those out on my Kevin Wiseman Instagram or the YouTube channel. But yeah, I just feel like the podcast, I listen to a ton of podcasts, but I feel like I'm not sure that it's my milieu, and there, it seems a little bit log jammed. There seems to be a lot of podcasts.
I agree, but again, this is the greatest platform. Blogs, there's billions of blogs, but there's only still millions of podcasts.
Right.
Anyone that's out there that wants to do a podcast, you have an opportunity if you find the right niche and right situation in that.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a podcaster. I consider myself a radio guy because that's where I started in radio. Even started back 15 plus years ago, producing and co-hosting a wrestling radio talk show. So I grew up in that end, but I really respect podcasters a lot more.
Me too, yeah.
And more celebrities are doing it. And I think it just tells a story, and it's so interesting. And it's just an opportunity for people to have their own voice. So I commend anyone.
Yeah, and I think the more authentic people are, the more traction they get. So you really, like you said, niche or authenticity or something. And I feel that way about what I do for a living too. Is like, the camera doesn't lie, the microphone doesn't lie. like you can try to BS in front of a camera. You can try your tricks and your things, but like it's gonna run pretty hollow after a while. And I've been there when I can't quite get there in a super honest way. I'll just kind of go to the old bag of tricks, and it just doesn't. It doesn't ring as true. So like I really just try to be as honest as possible in every moment, which has taught me to do that in my life too. It all kind of goes back to that idea, whether it's yoga, meditation, that improvisation in music, which I love, or acting or podcasting. It's like, how genuine can I be? And I'm still working on it, therapy, whatever it is, just trying to strip away as much as possible to get to something where people respond to it. And I think I was so young when I did Marshall, it was like, I just kind of went for it, not even knowing really that it would have such an impact. And then once it did, it like took me a second to kind of almost have because people are like, oh, you're so good at that, you're so funny. It's like, oh, well, now I have to do that again. And then there's pressure, and then you find yourself going to the tricks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're like, oh, I got to repeat that. It's like, no, just go. So I just forced myself, no, go back to honesty. And at the end of the day, you'll be happy with what you did. Who cares what people think?
Exactly. To the next question. You have so many questions. It's so great that Kevin's spent so much time with us, and it's awesome. So Eric,
yeah, I do have a limited time though. How much time are we going to go?
Now, Kevin, we're almost
okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll wrap it up here. Before we do, though, I want to just really quickly hit. So you were in Blacklist, which is one of my favorite shows. You were also in Scorpion, and Walter O'Brien's a personal friend of mine. Would love to.
You know everybody.
Well, I got to meet him at Carnegie Hall last year. I was speaking there, and he was speaking, and then we just became friends. So now we message on, and we had a handful of conversations. But obviously, brilliant dude.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? And
you brought up about O'Brien. He was on my TV show about 7 years ago. So
about wrestling?
Yeah. No. About Scorpion when it first launched.
Yeah.
No. I mean, what was your show? Your show was
it was a TV. I have a TV station too. This is on me on TV as well on Pittsburgh station Channel 7. And he called in because we weren't having cameras at that time. And he called in when I was doing a call when I would go to the studio. But it's a 50-minute drive back and forth, and it was such a pain. And I got so busy with all these different projects. Now I just send it into the station. So it's nice.
I wish you would have told me it was on TV. I would have got would have had a better background or whatever. But
no worries.
Hopefully. You got the LA. You got the authentic LA.
We got authentic LA all day today.
The whole cuts, scenes, everything. The mask. You've given us everything.
It's very highly entertaining. You see, I stay in the moment, my friend. I stay in the moment. I really do. That's how I try to live my life. And that's the secret to performing. Is just being in the moment, and that's something that Elias Gabel, who played Walter O'Brien, really did very well, and I respect him as an actor tremendously. I did not ever meet Walter, but I was brought into that show to I did about 16, 17 episodes, and I was brought into the show to give that character a friendship. He was so kind of focused on the team. And for people that haven't seen the show, it was about this guy, Walter O'Brien, when he was like, age
13
9 or something, 13. Yeah. He broke into NASA. He's a genius. And then they ended up hiring him to kind of run this organization. Right. To help with, certain aspects of the government, whether it's weather patterns, farming, science, right? I don't even know what else he did. He formed a task force to kind of help.
He called the Boston Bombers, those two brothers with the.
Yeah, I know who they are. He was involved in. Oh wow,
that was him.
Yeah,
he
there
used
you go.
All the traffic cams and all that and automation, and they tracked them down. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, thank God for those guys. Yeah, so I'm sure Donald Trump got rid of all of them. Hey, let's not get political. So, so anyway, sorry, there's a plane going over. Hold for plane. They wanted my security, you guys. That's my security. I have them circle around every half hour, just to make sure that I'm safe, and that I'm wearing my mask. So he was, insulated with the group of people that worked on sorry, 1 second. I'm getting a text. So sorry. He was. Sorry, guys. So yeah, he was kind of with that group of people, and they wanted him to have somebody that was outside the genius enclave, and so they created this character of Ray in communities, and he's kind of this, Phil Jackson of platitudes and, Zen master, but also kind of an oddball. And they formed this, unlikely odd couple friendship. And then Elias and I in life also did as well, because we kind of shared the same love of theater. And, that was a really fun show where the creator of the show, Nick Santora, brought me in to kind of do my thing. And he was like, go ahead, improvise, kind of just try to get a reaction out of Elias's character, out of Walter. You're there to kind of bring some new life into this character. So we have another perspective. We can see this other side of Walter, not just the brain side, but like trying to be human, and trying to have not human, but trying to have a seeing this side of empathy towards someone who, perhaps isn't as smart as he is. So we had a lot of fun, man. And that was a fun show. And that's one of those shows that like is world renowned. Like I'll have messages on social media all the time from Poland, Mexico, Argentina, Ireland. Like the show is universally watched, as opposed to maybe as much in the States, where some shows are more kind of US based. Same with The Blacklist. I only did like maybe 4 episodes of The Blacklist, played a friend of mine, a couple of people from Alias right on that show, and they were like, hey, do you want to come in and play what was the guy play? An ME, a medical examiner that they're like, it's kind of similar to Marshall, but would you be interested in playing? I was like, yeah, I'd love to work on that show. Great. James Spader. I never got to work with James, but like phenomenal show. I would love to. And then they named it after a friend of mine, Dr. Maynard, and Jeff Maynard is a friend of ours from college. So he got a little shout out. He got his name on TV.
What's very, I'm gonna drop one more time. Harry Lennox was on my show yesterday. I mean, Harold Lennox. He's great on the show, man. What a great actor.
I
worked with NBC yesterday. I do tours with them on a regular basis, NBC.
Wow. I'm so glad I did this. You guys are so prolific.
No, thanks. Let's go to Eric's final legacy question. Go ahead, Eric. Hit him with a legacy question.
Lay it on me.
All right. So, Kevin, I've heard all kinds of stuff from you today, right? So you use your webcam to do things with your kids, with the parent-teacher deal. You've got a lot of wisdom as far as just committing and excellence in what you do. So one of the questions we always like to ask as we're talking about living a legacy, not just leaving one behind, but how are we living out our legacy today? How are we using our influence to impact the world around us? So my question for you would be, how do you want to be remembered?
You mean, how do I want to be remembered?
Just
someone who's authentic. Yeah. Just someone who, was authentic and lived his life with authenticity, and maybe a good listener. I think that's important for acting too. When people ask you, hey, what's the key to act? You just listen, man. Like listen. Don't get caught up in your head. And I try to apply that to my relationships with my children and, relationships, any relationship, parents, with a significant other. So a good listener, authentic, and maybe made you laugh a little. Laughter is the best medicine, my friend.
It is.
Yeah, that's about it. I try to. I'm on the board of a number of charities, and that's something that's important to me too. So hopefully, someone who tried to give back a little too.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's a great one. Since we have the time, there's something I've been involved with recently called Save the Children and No Kid Hungry. I encourage you to check them out at Save the Children on Instagram and at No Kid Hungry. Especially during the pandemic, they are working towards making sure every kid is fed, those who relied on school lunch programs.
Absolutely.
Many other things, but they're a great organization. The money goes directly to the kids. There's not a lot of red tape. So anyone that suffered through me yapping away about being authentic, go ahead and check out Save the Children and No Kid Hungry. I would appreciate it.
All right.
Absolutely.
And where can we connect with you? Best places social media wise?
I'll at Kevin Wiseman on Twitter and Instagram. I also have a Facebook page, pro page, which I think is just Kevin Wiseman. And yeah, say hi. I'm pretty active on there with messages and stuff. I try to be.
All right.
Awesome,
well, we
man.
appreciate you coming by, and this was an
So
interesting.
I'm right. Give him a little time, but I'll say, yeah, man. Nice to meet you guys.
All right. Oh, guys. Okay. So, guys, that was Living a Legacy, and take care, everybody.
All right.
All right. Can you do a quick promo real quick, Kevin? Just
Yeah, sure.
You're listening to Living a Legacy. This is Kevin Wiseman, and you're listening to Living a Legacy.
And just speak for just a second so the camera goes on you before you.
I'm gonna put myself.
Okay, ready? Give me the thumbs up. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. Hey, this is Kevin Wiseman, and you are listening to Living a Legacy. Don't change that dial. Do people still use dials anymore? All right, we good?
That was perfect.
We
All right,
appreciate
you guys.
taking the time. I apologize all the different hiccups. We made it happen, and that's all.
Dude, if this is the worst thing that happens today in a national crisis, I think we'll be fine.
All right, thanks.
Listen, look at me, man. I'm sitting in the sun right now. How could it be worse?
You're living in LA.
Great.
There you go. There you go.
All right, you guys, take care now.
Thanks.
Let me know when this is on or whatever. I will. I'll promote it. Send me a message, with the link, or Jason, my assistant. Like we'll put it. We'll put it on our things too, or like repost it or whatever.
Appreciate it. I'll on the podcast. I'll tag you on it.
Okay. When will it be?
Living a Legacy.
When is it going to be?
We're going to do some editing. It'll go out to TV first. Then he'll launch it in podcasting. I'll put it out in syndication, but he'll be the one that gives you the promotion to go share it everywhere else. But
okay.
I'll update the links and everything everywhere to your team. Okay.
All right, guys. Take care now. Be safe.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
See you, Eric. Take care, guys.
See you. Bye.